Hello. I thought, so they asked me to speak in English, so I'll speak in English. So I thought I'm well prepared for that presentation, but then I saw you with ice cream and I totally collapsed. So, okay, guys, I brought you a couple of lessons from my own experience as a UX transformation lead, formerly a manager for a great UX team. I brought you some stories from me working as a coach with design managers and leaders across the globe. So we discuss leadership, we discuss recruitment, we discuss organizations. And first and foremost, we have one pretty interesting document that I discovered recently, which describes how CIA advised to sabotage organizations during World War II in Nazi-occupied countries. So this is it. This is a very simple document that describes, if you're a citizen that wants to disrupt how Nazis operate factory in World War II, this is something for you. Okay, so a couple of interesting instructions. And the instructions start with some very obvious ones. They provide some very technical insights, how you can ruin the effectiveness of process. Something which is purely cruel, and something that really looks like the manager strategy. So I've analyzed this document. We had a lot of conversations around it with my friends. And I extracted 8 powerful lessons how we as UX people can, and sometimes unconsciously do, sabotage our organizations. So stick with me. All photos, the credit goes to awkward family photos. Let's start. Guys, the first thing to sabotage your organization as a UX team is block the road to becoming a UX and block anyone willing to do UX from doing so. So let's use the natural tendency of every minority, and I believe in most of organizations, designers are a minority right now, to be very exclusive, to form exclusive invitation-only circles. Let's start with hiring. If you want to sabotage, opt for zero diversity of roles, of backgrounds. Look only for similar-minded people. Look for your clones. So only people with design background, only people with psychology background, only postdoctoral studies with design. So block the diversity. That will be the first thing. Don't think about including front-end developers who want to requalify. Don't think of hiring architects, and hey, I've seen a lot of architects applying to UX jobs nowadays. No illustrators, no product owners that want to become UX. Strive for zero diversity. Another part of this story is block anyone in your company that wants to do UX with you. So PO, product owners, product managers, clients sending sketches of their ideas, front-end developers who build very simple HTML prototypes, burn this shit with fire. No go. We are UX people, and only qualified UX people can do UX, right? Smile politely, yes, thank you for this prototype, but we'll do it better. Another story. Don't allow anyone other than UX designer or researcher to talk to users. Why? Figure something out. Like you're not trained how to become, how to have a great conversation. You'll figure something out. So don't involve other people who could do something in the field of UX into what we do. Now, why this should work? Why this sabotage technique should work? Well, I discovered mainly in my job in ABB that the most impact that we had as a UX team is when UX is treated like a teamwork. And not a teamwork only for designers, but the teamwork for all roles who can contribute to user experience. So think about Netflix, performance engineer. Does this guy really have less impact on user experience and while caring so that your show doesn't stop somewhere in the middle because the performance of the app is poor? Is it the impact less or bigger than designer who drafts interface? So design is a team sport. Once in ABB, in my career as a manager, we weren't able to scale. So there was a hiring freeze. We couldn't hire more people. So what we figured out was, hey, why don't we teach all other roles who have a direct impact on the user experience how to do it? And we designed PowerPoint prototyping toolkit. We trained a lot of people in how to talk to users. And this started to pay off, because a couple of years later, when I joined one program to help them with their transformation, I discovered that the product owner has 100 slides of interactive prototype of the app done entirely in PowerPoint. So design works best when it's a team sport. If you want to sabotage, block everyone from contributing to UX. Another thing, and if you smile, if you see that picture and if you smile, that's one of my favorites. So it looks like in 20th century, early 20th century, when photography was born, mothers were required so that the children sit still and don't move during taking the photographs. But obviously that was meant to be a photograph of a children. So wise photographers in US figured out, hey, let's cover mother with some kind of, canvas here. But another very similar tactic: isolate yourself and show that you, as UX, you possess a set of magical skills that no one else has. Befriend product managers, directors, and start telling them just how unique UX is. And just like, we have some magical tools. We have unique knowledge that no one else has. If you look for an argument, you could use this consultancy law about cucumbers, which says that if you put cucumbers in brine, so if you want to do kiszone ogórki, over time, the cucumbers get more pickled than the brine gets cucumbered. And translating that to organization, that means that a small team, through persistent and long-term contact with the rest of organization, is more likely to be influenced by that organization rather than influence the organization. Right? So use that argument and tell that you need to stay separate. Another thing, bring your designer big bucket of shiny objects, design ops, design thinking workshops, design system, empathy sessions, design tokens, branding, design processes. So whatever buzzwords are trendy, that's your big bucket of shiny objects that you show in front of people, and you have great excuse to remain separate. It reminds me of one tactic from the sabotage manual. It was about when you go to the cinema for a propaganda movie, they say, bring a bag of moths. And when it gets dark in the cinema, release the moths, and they will fly towards the light, totally disrupting the picture. And my advice to you, if you want to do a proper sabotage, is release your big shiny objects into the organization. Design ops, design tokens, choose whatever you want. This will successfully maintain your picture as totally unique and totally isolated and totally magic team. Managers, what you can do, and I keep hearing that often, and frankly, I've committed that tactic myself, unconsciously, but I did. Keep your UX people in the golden cage. Because we are oh so unique, in front of all the other developers and testers and product owners who we have, we need to be kept in golden cage. Don't absolutely allow your UX people to get in touch with the board, with the executives, with senior presidents, with product managers, just because they are, old, corporate, grumpy guys. They will most likely spoil our design processes. All they think about is business, so I need to protect you. Solve all problems for your team instead of empowering them to solve on their own way. Right? So that might sound like what a manager should do, solve problem for your people. But effectively, what this creates is a golden cage. So, why this will work? It successfully blocks UX people from influencing the rest of the organization. And if time allows, I will tell you one story that I've read recently, but I keep that for the ending. Second, I think that design leader job, and every leader job, is to create moments that matter for employees. Design is no difference here. What is the moment that matter? It's the moment in which a designer can go beyond daily design work, ritual critiques, and interact with someone from business, someone who pays the salary. Present the problem in a meaningful way and get the solution, or solve the problem together. Isolating UX people is a very effective solution because it ensures one thing, that you will most likely don't get future design leaders from the team you shield in your golden cage. And that's super important to remember. When you let people go in the organization, when you empower them to solve their own problems, most likely you will see a new design leaders to emerge. And needless to say, if you'd like to sabotage, you need to put them in the golden cage, you'll have no design leaders. If you want your organization to grow, let people go with freedom and empowerment and your support. Next, and this perhaps is my favorite, because it's counterintuitive. Put all your faith in teamwork. Well, haven't just people here spoken about the importance of teamwork? I've read a couple of articles, and they start appearing quite recently, that we have total, massive, thrilling collaboration overload on our shoulders. Meeting, design critiques, stand-ups, backlog refinements when you work with an agile team, brainstorming sessions, ideation sessions. We suffer from collaboration overload. So needless to say, put all your faith in teamwork and insist that every job, every design job we do goes through the whole team and goes through the full process. And nothing is accepted unless it's accepted by every team member. And nothing is accepted unless we all gave our feedback. This is counterintuitive, but maybe, just maybe, what happens is that these helpful employees, the most helpful guy in your team, becomes really a bottleneck because everyone needs his or her help, right? And that's a bottleneck. I've read in a very interesting article in Harvard Business Review that teamwork is a concept that started to appear in the 70s, just before. People were working mostly individually, and teamwork is not a dogma. It's something that can work for us or cannot work for us. My point here, if you want to sabotage, introduce teamwork only, block individual work, introduce design by committee, let people spend endless hours on debates on design critiques. And ask yourself a question. Maybe, just maybe, the team and heavy teamwork and heavy collaboration within your UX team isn't the best way to do now. Maybe that's a hypothesis that you need to try for yourself. Maybe your team suffers in the post-COVID time from so much overload from collaboration that it will be really freeing for your people to be able to work independently under the supervision of just one person. Maybe you'd like to test what we introduced in ABB some time ago, design duos or trios, so designers would naturally pair, and that would be the single unit delivering value. That's great. Refuse any work other than solving problems. So you probably know that we are UX designer. We are UX designers, and what we do, we don't push pixels in Figma. We don't push pixels in Zoom. We solve problems for people. So whenever you have a task which is small, which might be boring, which might be repetitive, which might be just, well, both or delegated to junior high, to all juniors, you're great, argue that we designers solve problems. We don't draw interfaces. We solve problems. We know what is the problem here. When I join other conferences for Agile, for QA, for engineering, what I keep hearing from every other discipline is we are not engineers, we are problem solvers. We are not quality assurance and testers. We don't test software, we solve problems for people. We are not performance engineers, we solve problems. So it's absolutely not unique to design world to claim that we solve problems. Sometimes do whatever, even if the design task for you sounds like boring, sounds like, blah, do something. Push something to production environment which is good enough, and that's it. You don't need to solve all the world's problems all the time. Design simple solution to probe and detect the problem. Sometimes we don't know what the customer problem or user problem is before we start pushing pixels. If you'd like to sabotage, claim that we, unique design team, we solve problems and bring us the problems, not just design tasks. When everything fails, you can always have another design thinking workshop, right? You can't have just enough empathy, right, in your process. So when in doubt, choke your organization with just another magical tool, which is a design sprint, 5 days long, even better. Do it. Why this can work? That idea of holding conferences when there is just more critical work to be done came to me when I was at an event organized by IBM, and one guy had a t-shirt saying, design thinking is not a workshop, design thinking it's not a workshop, design thinking it's not a workshop. And it is not a workshop. It's a process that, if you take it very simple, it can be done individually. You don't need a team for design thinking. Well, obviously you get more diversity in perspectives. Yes, please invite the team when you have the need. But in my experience, and this is only my experience, if you have your own, that's great. But design thinking always ends with the best idea in the room, always coming from an individual. And when I compare, various design thinking workshops that I conducted over time, and I asked people who came up with the best ideas, they always were telling me, yeah, but you know what, I had this idea from 3 months. It's not a design thinking process. It was great to talk to people, but this particular idea, I had them long ago. So it may be my hypothesis, but design thinking would sometimes end with as good an idea as, well, the best idea coming from the individual. You probably don't need another design thinking workshop, and introduce a couple of new ones if you want to sabotage your organization. Now, do you know that PM, PO, whoever comes to you and says, well, I have this idea, but well, can you do something about it? I don't have any details. Happens, especially in agile environments. So your job here would be, no, I need detailed user stories. Bring me the user problem we are solving. Bring me some empathy maps. Bring me some customer journey, and then, and only then, I can start working on the thing. Well, working on complex problems means that together with developers, designers, sometimes we will never know what is a good solution, or we even will not know what is the real problem unless we start doing and coding something. And sometimes you need to just start working with whatever you know at the moment to be successful and to uncover, hey, but what is really the problem we are solving? We designed this mock-up. What does it tell us about the user problem? Maybe it flips the problem completely. So if you want to choke your organization, refuse to work with incomplete requirements. And that could be the last one. Pixel-perfect work on relatively unimportant products. So this is really about how do you guys think about value of what we do. So if you want to sabotage here, don't pay attention to what you design. Don't look at the business context. What is the business value? Not only the user value, but the business value. Then strive for originality and individual approach of every task. Don't track design trends. Don't even check design marketplaces, because we are also creative that we need to do everything from scratch. Reject any design partnerships. Reject buying ready design elements, right? Insist that everything we do needs to be perfect. So why this should work? If you ignore the value of what you do, you miss a couple of important things. First, that UX serves, yes, users, but also a business. And maybe I'm wrong. I would like to be wrong. But working with design leaders, I see a lot of companies, startups, revising the investment in UX nowadays. Last week, I had a discussion with a design leader from Germany whose startup just laid off 20 designers. And I'm pretty sure that these guys will find a job. But do you show your value? Do you understand the business value of what you are designing? Guys, not everyone needs a logotype. Not every company needs a unique design system. You can buy design system. There is DALL-E and Midjourney, the artificial AI generators for illustrations. I have just seen, a couple of days ago, a marketplace for prompts to DALL-E, creating variety of icons and illustrations. Do something to prove your worth, your financial and business value as designers. And conversely, if you'd like to sabotage your business and absolutely have no design representative in the board of your company whatsoever, no chief design officer, don't care about the value. And do pixel-perfect work on everything that your company does without even questioning, should we be doing that at first place? The last thing, when everything else fails, what I've just said, forget to provide paper in toilets. That would be it, but I have one little question. Do I have still 1.5 minutes? So I'd like to tell you a last story. So how it should be. What is this picture here? I'll use the laser. I always wanted to. It doesn't work. So this picture shows a guy in Cuba in the factory that people would roll the cigars. So what is the story here? So workers there were so bored rolling the cigars in the 50s all day long without radio, without anything, that they figured out, hey, there is one guy among us who can read. So give this guy a couple of books, and he would read aloud during us rolling the cigars. So this guy would read Shakespeare, the Monte Cristo novels, prose, and what was the effect? These guys got absolutely well educated over time. So well educated and versed in philosophy, in literature, that they started striking for their own rights. So the typical story happens. The lecturer office was totally removed from the company. The strike was brutally ignored by people. Why I'm telling you? It's because perhaps as a remedy for what I have just said about sabotaging your organizations, the role of lecturer should be yours as a UX team. Be here and read and talk to people about users, about business, about design trends. Involve everyone so that everyone becomes a customer advocate and user advocate. So that was the story I wanted to leave you. If you have any questions, I'll be somewhere here. Thank you very much.